Chrono-Drift Protocol.0. A science fiction sleep story, presented by Bedtime Stories. Make yourself comfortable, close your eyes, take a slow, deep breath. And now, let the story begin. Elara nestled deeper into the cool woven fibers of her sleep pod, but sleep remained a distant star. Outside her viewport, the universe was a velvet tapestry embroidered with diamonds, not just the familiar pinpricks of light, but swirling nebulae that pulsed with soft cosmic breath, and the majestic, silent sweep of Etheria Prime's solar sails, catching the distant sun. Etheria Prime wasn't just a space station. It was a city sculpted from starlight and dreams, orbiting a gas giant so vast its stormy bands looked like painted brushstrokes across the black. Its domes, transparent and shimmering, housed bioluminescent gardens where trees grew upside down, their roots reaching for the artificial sky, and where tiny glowing fey moths danced in the humid air. Elara loved the gardens, especially at dusk, when the station's internal lights dimmed to mimic twilight, and the gentle hum of the life support systems was almost indistinguishable from the cricket song of synthesized nature. But tonight, the hum felt different. It vibrated with a subtle energy that had been growing over the past few weeks, ever since the new module had docked, a sleek silver cylinder with no visible windows, only a single glowing azure portal. That was the Chrono-Drift lab, her mother's latest obsession, and the source of the low, resonant thrum that now seemed to permeate the very metal of Etheria Prime. Elara's mother, Dr. Iris Thorne, was a temporal astrophysicist, a title Elara could barely pronounce, let alone fully understand. All she knew was that her mother studied time. Not just how it moved forward, but how it bent, stretched, and sometimes, according to her mother's hushed conversations, even whispered backward. "Time isn't a river, sweetling," Eris had once explained, her fingers tracing the condensation on Elara's nutrient shake glass. "It's more like an ocean. Vast, deep, with currents and eddies, and sometimes, if you know how to listen, echoes." The Chrono-Drift protocol was, as far as Elara understood, a way to listen to those echoes. It was a technology born from necessity, designed to ease the impossible distances of deep space. When explorers set out on voyages that spanned centuries for those left behind, time became a cruel master. The Chrono-Drift, her mother had promised, would allow loved ones to touch across those temporal gulfs, to share moments, not just memories. It wasn't time travel in the storybooks, her mother insisted, no changing the past or peeking at the future. It was a resonance. A gentle, controlled reverberation through the fabric of time itself. Elara missed her father. He was on the Odyssey Vig, a deep space exploration vessel that had left Etheria Prime 5 standard years ago, but to him, it had only been a few months. Time dilation, her mother explained. A consequence of near light-speed travel. By the time he returned, Elara would be grown, her mother a woman of advanced years. The Chrono-Drift protocol was meant to bridge that gap, to allow them to experience moments together, even if those moments weren't perfectly aligned. A shared sunset, a quiet conversation, a feeling of presence that defied the light years and the decades. Tonight, her mother was in the lab, running what she called phase alignment diagnostics. The soft hum was proof of her tireless work. Elara knew she shouldn't be awake. Her biorhythms were set for optimal sleep, her nutrient intake balanced, her daily lessons in stellar cartography and zero-G botany complete. But curiosity, a trait she inherited directly from her mother, was a stubborn, wide-awake thing. Slipping out of her sleep pod, Elara padded silently across the cool recycled polymer floor of their small apartment. The viewports of their living area offered an even grander vista of the gas giant, Jupiter 2 as it was affectionately called, its great red spot a swirling ancient eye watching them from below. Beyond that, the distant, faint shimmer of Earth, a pale blue marble, almost invisible in the vastness. Home, in a way, but a home Elara had only ever seen through holographic projections. She knew the layout of Etheria Prime by heart, even the restricted access corridors. Her mother often took her on tours of the less sensitive labs, explaining the marvels of fusion reactors and hydroponic farms. The Chrono-Drift lab, however, was strictly off-limits. "Too delicate, sweetling," Eris would say, ruffling Elara's dark, wavy hair. "Too complex. Even a whisper could disturb the temporal field. But a whisper was exactly what Alara wanted to hear. She made her way to the communal kitchen, grabbing a warm synth milk and a nutrient bar. The station was quiet, most of its 5,000 inhabitants asleep. Only the soft glow of emergency lights and the occasional whir of a cleaning drone broke the stillness. She found herself drifting towards the Chrono-Drift module, her feet moving of their own accord. The corridor leading to the lab was different. It was bathed in a gentle, pulsing azure light, mirroring the glow from the module's portal. A faint, almost imperceptible vibration resonated through the floor. The air felt charged, like before a storm, but a quiet internal storm. As she drew closer, she heard voices. Not her mother's, but a low, rhythmic cadence, almost like chanting. It was coming from inside the lab. The portal, usually sealed tight, was slightly ajar, a sliver of brilliant blue light spilling into the corridor. Alara hesitated. Her mother's rules were absolute when it came to the lab. But the chanting, it was mesmerizing. And she knew her mother would never leave the portal open if there was any danger. Maybe it was a new diagnostic protocol, something that required an open door for atmospheric exchange? She tried to rationalize her curiosity, but deep down, she knew it was simply an irresistible pull. Pushing the portal gently, Alara peered inside. The lab was vast, cavernous, dominated by a central cylindrical chamber of shimmering, transparent alloys. Inside, intricate silver filigree pulsed with the same azure light. Around the chamber, consoles glowed with data streams and holographic projections of complex temporal equations danced in the air. Her mother wasn't there. The voices, she realized, weren't voices at all. They were a symphony of sound. A low, resonant thrum, like a giant tuning fork, mixed with a high crystalline chime that echoed like a distant wind chime. It was coming from the central chamber. It was the Chrono-Drift system itself, active and humming. On one of the consoles, a large holographic interface pulsed with a prominent display. Phase alignment, 98.7%. Stabilizing. Below it, a series of smaller windows showed fluctuating energy readings, temporal field harmonics, and something labeled Subject Resonance Index. Alara stepped further into the room, her small figure dwarfed by the towering machinery. The air was warm, smelling faintly of ozone and something else, something sweet, like old books and fresh rain. She walked over to the console, mesmerized by the data. Her mother had taught her basic interface navigation, how to pull up research logs, access public data streams. This was far more complex, but the main interface was surprisingly intuitive. There was a large, glowing button labeled Activate Chrono-Drift Protocol. Beside it, a smaller button, Calibration Cycle, Initiate. She knew better than to touch it. She really did. But the air thrummed, and the light pulsed, and the symphony of the machine beckoned. Her fingers, almost of their own accord, reached out. Not for the big button. For the smaller one. Calibration Cycle. Initiate. It felt safer. Less. Final. Like pressing play on a recording, not record. The moment her fingertip brushed the holographic interface, a soft chime resonated through the lab. The azure light intensified, swirling around the central chamber like a gentle vortex. The air grew thicker, shimmering with unseen energies. Nothing immediately happened to Alara. She felt no jolt, no sudden displacement. Instead, it was as if the room itself began to breathe. The edges of her vision softened, the sharp lines of the consoles blurring into gentle gradients. The scent of ozone intensified, mixed now with a faint, earthy aroma she couldn't quite place. Then the floor beneath her feet seemed to soften, to yield. It wasn't a physical change, but a sensory one. She felt like she was sinking into something warm and yielding, like a cloud made of liquid light. The sounds of the lab faded, replaced by that mesmerizing symphony, now clearer, richer, as if it were playing inside her own head. Colors began to bleed into her vision. Not the stark blues and greens of Etheria Prime, but soft, shifting hues of amber and violet, deep emerald and shimmering gold. They swirled and merged, forming patterns that made no logical sense but felt profoundly beautiful. This is it, she thought, a thrill mingling with a touch of fear. This is the Chrono-Drift. She wasn't moving, Yet she felt a profound sense of motion, a gentle, effortless glide through something vast and ancient. It wasn't fast, not like a jump. It was drifting, like a tiny leaf carried on an invisible current. Memories began to surface, not her own, not quite. A faint echo of laughter, not from her mother, but from a deeper, more resonant voice. A fleeting image of a vast, green forest, sunlight dappling through leaves, so unlike Etheria Prime's contained gardens. A feeling of warmth, of deep peace, of something profoundly old. Then, a face. Her father's face. Not as he was now, a man in his prime, but younger, with a mischievous glint in his eye she hadn't seen in her holographic calls. He was laughing, his head tilted back, a streak of dirt across his cheek. He was wearing something unfamiliar, not his sleek goddessy vid uniform, but rough, woven fabric. He was standing in that forest, bathed in that ancient sunlight. Elara felt an overwhelming surge of love, a connection so pure and strong it brought tears to her eyes. It wasn't a memory of her father. It was an echo of him, from a time before she existed, perhaps even before he had met her mother. An echo of his joy, his youth, his connection to a world Elara had never known. She reached out, instinctively, though she knew he wasn't truly there. Her fingers brushed against the shimmering air, and the image rippled, distorted, then reformed. He looked directly at her, not with recognition but with a serene, almost knowing smile. A silent, gentle acknowledgement across the impossible gulf of time. The colors intensified, shifting faster. The feeling of drifting grew stronger, more exhilarating. The symphony swelled, urging her onward. She felt a connection to something immense, something beyond her comprehension. She wasn't just touching an echo, she was becoming part of it, a tiny ripple in time's vast ocean. Then a new sensation. A faint, almost imperceptible pull. Not backward, not forward, but sideways. A subtle deviation from the gentle current. The image of her father flickered, replaced by something else. A landscape she had never seen. Not a forest, but an endless shimmering desert of violet sand under a sky of emerald green. In the distance, strange, crystalline structures rose from the dunes, catching the alien sunlight and refracting it into 1,000 rainbows. No signs of life but a profound sense of peace, of ancient wisdom. This wasn't an echo of her father. This was something else entirely. Something alien. Something beautiful. Something lost. A sudden sharp ping broke through the symphony. A jolt, like a tiny electric current, ran through Elara. The soft edges of her vision sharpened. The colors receded. The scent of ozone and old books faded, replaced by the sterile air of the lab. She was back. Standing exactly where she had been, her hands still hovering over the holographic console. The central chamber was still glowing, but the intensity had lessened. The symphony had quieted, returning to the familiar hum of Etheria Prime. Elara's heart pounded like a drum against her ribs. Her breath came in short, sharp gasps. She felt lightheaded, as if she'd just woken from the most vivid dream imaginable. The console screen now read, phase alignment, 99.9%, stable. Calibration cycle complete. She hadn't initiated a full Chrono-Drift. She'd only run a calibration cycle. But what she had experienced, it felt so real. More real than any hologram, any data stream. She backed away from the console, her legs feeling wobbly. She looked around the lab, half expecting to see the violet desert, or her young father, still laughing in that ancient forest. But it was just the lab, sterile and silent, save for the hum. A sudden, soft inhushing of the portal opening made her jump. Her mother stood there, her face etched with a mixture of exhaustion and concern. Elara? Sweetling, what are you doing here? I thought you were asleep. Eris Thorne scanned the lab, her eyes flicking from Elara to the console, then to the central chamber. A small frown creased her brow. Did you touch anything? Elara swallowed hard. Her throat felt dry. I just pressed calibration cycle, Mama. It was glowing. And I heard the music. Her mother rushed to the console, her fingers flying across the holographic interface. Data streams scrolled at dizzying speeds. Her eyes narrowed. Energy fluctuations were minimal. Temporal field harmonics within acceptable parameters, but the subject resonance index spiked dramatically. She looked at Elara, a new light of curiosity mingling with her concern. Did you feel anything? See anything? Elara hesitated, remembering the laughter, the forest, the violet desert. It felt too precious, too personal, to share, especially if her mother might be angry. Just colors, Mama. And the music. It was so beautiful. She decided to omit the part about her father and the desert. For now. Aris knelt, pulling Elara into a warm embrace. You scared me, little stargazer. This isn't a toy. It's incredibly complex, and even a calibration cycle can have unexpected side effects. She held Elara at arm's length, studying her face. You look luminous. Are you all right? Elara nodded, still feeling the faint echo of that strange, beautiful desert. I'm fine, Mama. Just tired, I think. All right. Let's get you back to bed, Eris said, her voice softer now. She ushered Elara out of the lab, sealing the portal behind them with a soft hiss. No more late-night explorations, understood? The Chrono-Drift protocol is still in its nascent stages. We need to be incredibly careful. Back in her sleep pod, Elara stared out at the swirling nebulae. The hum of Aetheria Prime was no longer just a hum. It felt like a heartbeat. A pulse that resonated with the memory of what she had experienced. The laughter, the ancient forest, and most vividly, the shimmering violet desert with its crystalline structures. It wasn't just colors and music. She had felt something. A connection. A whisper from beyond her own time, beyond her own world. The Chrono-Drift protocol was meant to connect them to loved ones, to echoes of home. But what she had seen, that violet desert, it felt like an echo of something entirely different. Something vast, unknown, and incredibly old. A strange warmth settled in her chest. A mixture of wonder and a budding sense of purpose. She had only pressed calibration cycle. What would a full Chrono-Drift protocol feel like? And what other echoes, what other worlds, what other times, lay hidden in the vast ocean of time, waiting to be touched? Elara closed her eyes, the vivid image of the violet desert still burning behind her eyelids. The hum of Aetheria Prime lulled her closer to sleep, but it was a sleep filled with shimmering sand and silent, crystalline towers, calling her to drift once more. Elara closed her eyes, the vivid image of the violet desert still burning behind her eyelids. The hum of Aetheria Prime lulled her closer to sleep, but it was a sleep filled with shimmering sand and silent, crystalline towers, calling her to drift once more. Elara's eyelids fluttered, a brief resistance against the encroaching tide of sleep. But the call of the shimmering sand was too strong, the silent crystalline towers too compelling. As the last vestiges of wakefulness dissolved, she felt a familiar, yet intensified, tingling sensation begin at her fingertips and spread rapidly through her limbs. It wasn't the gentle hum of the previous calibration cycle. This was a resonant thrum, a deep, harmonic vibration that seemed to emanate from the very core of Aetheria Prime, echoing within her own bones. She hadn't consciously pressed Chrono-Drift protocol. Yet, in that liminal space between waking and dreaming, her subconscious must have reached out, compelled by the nascent purpose she'd felt. The sensation intensified, no longer a mere vibration but a swirling vortex of shimmering light and sound. Colors she had never seen before bloomed and faded behind her closed eyes. Vibrant auroras of impossible hues. Deep wells of obsidian punctuated by stardust. Shifting geometries that spoke of dimensions beyond her comprehension. She felt herself stretching, not physically, but spatially, temporally. Her individual consciousness seemed to expand, becoming less Elara and more a diffuse awareness, a speck of sentience adrift in a boundless ocean. The hum of Aetheria Prime, which had been a comforting lullaby, now transformed into a symphony of whispers, a chorus of distant echoes. She heard fragments of languages unknown, snatches of music from instruments yet to be invented, the faint reverberations of colossal engines powering civilizations, millennia apart. It was overwhelming, breathtaking, and utterly exhilarating. Fear, a fleeting phantom, tried to grip her, but it was drowned out by an immense, almost spiritual, sense of wonder. She was no longer simply observing time. She was witnessing a tiny current in its mighty flow. The swirling light coalesced, then fractured, like a prism shattering infinity. For a moment she was everywhere and nowhere, seeing the birth of stars and the cooling of suns, the rise and fall of empires, the first tentative steps of life on 1,000 different worlds. It was too much for a single mind to process, yet she felt a profound understanding, a fleeting connection to the grand tapestry of existence. Then, as quickly as it had begun, the chaotic deluge subsided, leaving her with a sense of gentle descent, a slow, graceful glide towards a singular point in the vastness. The sensation of falling resolved into one of immersion. Not in water, not exactly, but in something akin to it, a luminous, viscous medium that hummed with latent energy. She opened her eyes, though she wasn't sure if she even had eyes in this state, and gasped, a soundless exhalation in the silent expanse. Before her lay a city, unlike anything she could have ever conceived. It wasn't built on land or suspended in air. It was woven into the very fabric of the luminous fluid. Great, translucent spires of what appeared to be solidified light spiraled upwards and downwards, creating intricate interconnected pathways. The entire city glowed with an internal luminescence, casting soft, shifting hues of sapphire, emerald, and amethyst across its ethereal structures. It was as if a nebula had been coaxed into architectural form, pulsing with a gentle, rhythmic beat. Creatures, if they could be called that, drifted through the luminous currents. They were beings of pure light, coalesced energy forms that shimmered with an inner fire. Some were slender and serpentine, trailing long phosphorescent tendrils. Others were bulbous and intricate, resembling living, complex fractals. They moved with an effortless grace, navigating the currents with an innate understanding, their forms constantly shifting, expanding, contracting, yet always maintaining a coherent individuality. They communicated not through sound, but through intricate patterns of light and color that rippled across their surfaces, like living aurora borealis. Elara watched, mesmerized, as these light beings exchanged vibrant, silent conversations, their hues blending and separating in a breathtaking ballet of meaning. The city itself seemed alive, its structures breathing with the same gentle rhythm as its inhabitants. Bioluminescent flora, resembling enormous, slow-motion jellyfish, pulsed with soft light, anchoring themselves to the crystalline spires and drawing sustenance from the luminous fluid. Streams of pure energy, like liquid starlight, flowed through transparent conduits, powering the city's myriad functions. There were no hard edges, no sharp angles, only fluid curves and organic forms that merged seamlessly with the environment. It was a world of living light, a symphony of soft glows and gentle movements. Elara felt no fear, only an overwhelming sense of peace and belonging. She felt, for the first time, truly connected to something vast and ancient. The luminous fluid seemed to accept her, holding her gently, allowing her to drift deeper into the heart of Lumina, as the city was silently called in her mind. As Elara drifted deeper, she began to notice intricate details. The light beings, which at first had seemed purely abstract, now revealed subtle differences. Some had more defined core bodies, while others were almost entirely diffuse. She saw them tending to luminous gardens, guiding streams of energy, and gathering in fluid, undulating assemblies that seemed to be centers of learning or communal experience. One such assembly caught her attention. A cluster of particularly bright multi-hued beings had gathered around a vast spherical construct of solidified light. Within the sphere, complex, three-dimensional patterns of energy swirled and intertwined, depicting what looked like star charts, or perhaps the very fabric of spacetime itself. The light beings pulsed with intense colors as they interacted with the sphere, sending delicate tendrils of light into its surface, seemingly drawing out knowledge or contributing their own. Elara found herself drawn closer, an invisible observer in this ethereal library. As she approached, one of the light beings, a particularly vivid sapphire entity with streaks of gold, seemed to pause. Its light pulses momentarily stilled, and its form subtly shifted, as if sensing an anomaly in the luminous current. Its gaze, if light beings had such a thing, seemed to turn directly towards her. A ripple of apprehension went through Alara, an unfamiliar feeling in this otherwise peaceful place. Had she been detected? Was she intruding? But the sapphire being's light patterns didn't convey alarm. Instead, they shifted into a complex questioning array of colors, like a silent, curious inquiry. It extended a long, luminous tendril, not quite touching her, but hovering inches away, pulsing gently. Alara instinctively mirrored the gesture. She imagined her own hand reaching out, and a faint shimmering echo of her touch seemed to emanate from her ethereal form, meeting the tendril. For a fleeting moment, a pure, unadulterated sensation of connection flooded her. It wasn't just information, it was emotion, history, a vast, silent understanding of the cosmos, all conveyed in a single, wordless touch of light. She felt the ancient wisdom of Lumina, the harmonious existence of its inhabitants, their gentle stewardship of their living world. She felt their curiosity, not as a threat, but as an open invitation. The sapphire being pulsed with a new pattern, one of profound recognition, then gently retracted its tendril. It turned back to the luminous sphere, and its light patterns began to tell a story that Alara, through that brief incredible connection, could now faintly understand. It was a tale of cycles, of creation and dissolution, of the flow of energy through the universe, and of the unique place Lumina held within it. They were not just inhabitants, they were custodians, guardians of the luminous currents that wove through the cosmos. The connection, though brief, left Alara with a profound sense of purpose, a yearning to understand more. She drifted away from the assembly, drawn by an almost magnetic pull towards the deepest, most vibrant part of the city. Here, the currents of energy were strongest, flowing together into a colossal, spiraling vortex of light that pulsed at the very heart of Lumina. This was no ordinary structure. It was the nexus, the core, the engine that sustained the entire city, and perhaps even its inhabitants. It radiated a warmth that permeated her ethereal form, a gentle, nurturing energy that felt like the embrace of a loving parent. Within the vortex, she saw not just light, but a tapestry of pure information, woven from countless strands of energy. It was the collective consciousness of Lumina, the accumulated knowledge of eons, the very essence of their harmonious existence. As Alara approached the core, she realized it wasn't a singular object, but a convergence of countless smaller light streams, each carrying unique data. It was a cosmic library, a living archive of universal truths. She saw glimpses of other worlds, not as distinct images, but as resonant frequencies. Worlds of fire and ice, worlds of pure thought, worlds where time flowed in reverse. And amidst these myriad echoes, she saw faint, shimmering reflections of her own world, her own time. A new understanding dawned on her. The Chrono-Drift protocol wasn't just about Aishi and other times, it was about I connecting to them. It was about touching the vast, interwoven network of existence. Lumina, with its inhabitants of light, was not merely a city, it was a node, a conduit, a living gateway in this grand cosmic web. She felt a surge of energy from the core, not a forceful push, but a gentle invitation. It was as if the core itself was reaching out, offering to share its boundless knowledge, to integrate her into its luminous fabric. She hesitated for a moment, a tiny flicker of her individual consciousness asserting itself against the overwhelming desire to merge, to become one with this sublime entity. The thought of losing herself, of becoming another light strand in Lumina's infinite tapestry, was both terrifying and alluring. But then, a memory, sharp and clear, cut through the luminous haze, the comforting hum of Etheria Prime in her room, the scent of her own familiar bed, the soft glow of her nightlight. She was Alara, a girl from a specific time and place, with a family and a world waiting for her. Her purpose, she realized, was not to dissolve into Lumina, but to carry its wisdom, to bridging the gap between her world and others. The core seemed to understand. Its radiant energy softened, becoming less of an invitation to merge and more of a gift, a transmission. A stream of information, pure and crystalline, flowed into her, not as words or images, but as an intuitive understanding. She learned of the delicate balance of timelines, of the subtle ways in which distant echoes could influence one another, of the profound responsibility that came with temporal awareness. She understood that Etheria Prime was not just a device for travel, but a key, a translator, a tool for fostering connection across the impossible distances of time and space. The knowledge settled within her, not as a burden but as a deep, resonant truth. She felt an echo of the violet desert too, realizing it wasn't just a desolate landscape, but a world of profound stillness. A place where time itself seemed to slow, allowing for deep contemplation. Lumina, on the other hand, was a world of dynamic flow, of vibrant interaction, a testament to the power of collective consciousness. Each world, each echo, held its own unique lesson, its own piece of the cosmic puzzle. She saw herself, or rather, felt her own consciousness, as a tiny, nascent light being, learning to navigate these currents. The light beings of Lumina had sensed her, not as an intruder, but as a potential fellow traveler, a nascent bridge builder. The sapphire entity's touch had not been a mere greeting. It was an acknowledgement of her emerging role. The immense core of Lumina began to pulse with a new rhythm, one that felt like a gentle farewell. The luminous currents around her started to swirl, not drawing her deeper, but guiding her back, subtly yet firmly. She felt a pang of profound sadness, a longing to stay in this world of pure light and harmony, but also a growing resolve. She knew she had to return, to process what she had learned, to understand what it meant for her own world. But before the currents could fully sweep her away, a final luminous image coalesced within the core, directly before her. It wasn't a world or a star map, but a single delicate flower, rendered in exquisite detail. Its petals were spun from starlight, its stem a conduit of pure energy, and at its heart, a single pulsating orb of deep, resonant purple. It was unlike any flower she had ever seen, yet it felt intensely familiar, imbued with a deep significance. And then, she understood. This flower, this symbol, was a key, a message, a representation of the delicate balance between wonder and responsibility, between individual spirit and cosmic connection. It was a reminder that even the most fragile beauty held immense power, and that her journey, like the unfolding of a flower, had only just begun. It was a calling, a silent promise of future drifts, future connections. The luminous currents intensified, drawing her away from the radiant core, past the shimmering assemblies, and through the spiraling spires of the aqueous city. The vibrant hues of Lumina began to soften, blurring at the edges, like a watercolor painting dissolving in gentle rain. The silent symphony of light patterns grew faint, replaced by a deep, resonant hum that started low and gradually ascended in pitch. She felt herself contracting, her expanded consciousness gently but firmly condensing back into her familiar form. The sensation was less like being pulled and more like being rewoven, thread by thread, into her physical self. The profound peace she had experienced in Lumina began to recede, replaced by a comfortable familiarity. The slight weight of her blanket, the faint scent of her bedroom, the distant sounds of her own world. A wave of longing washed over her. She didn't want to leave. She wanted to explore every corner of Lumina, to understand every nuance of its light beings, to absorb all the knowledge held within its core. She wanted to feel that pure, unadulterated connection again, that sense of being a part of something infinitely vast and beautiful. The thought of returning to the mundane realities of her own room, after witnessing such cosmic wonders, felt almost unbearable. But the pull was relentless, an irresistible current guiding her home. She clung to the image of the starlight flower, its purple heart pulsing, a beacon of promise in the fading light. She knew this wasn't an ending, but a pause. A brief intermission before the next act. The swirling colors behind her eyes intensified one last time, a kaleidoscopic explosion of impossible hues, before collapsing inward, shrinking to a single, brilliant point of light. The harmonic vibration that had resonated through her bones slowly softened, receding to a gentle, steady thrum. The whispers of distant worlds faded into the background, leaving only the familiar, comforting hum of Etheria Prime. Elara's eyes fluttered open. For a moment, she lay perfectly still, suspended between two realities. The soft glow of her nightlight seemed dull, and insignificant compared to the internal luminescence of Lumina. The silence of her room felt heavy, lacking the vibrant, silent communication of the light beings. She blinked, and the image of the starlight flower, with its purple heart, seemed to imprint itself on the inside of her eyelids. She could still feel the phantom touch of the sapphire light being, the profound connection that had transcended words and form. The intuitive knowledge she had received from Lumina's core resonated deep within her. A quiet, powerful understanding that had become a part of her. Her room, her familiar room, looked different. It wasn't the physical objects that had changed, but her perception of them. The faint patterns on her wallpaper seemed to hold hidden geometries. The dust motes dancing in the beam of her nightlight appeared to shimmer with nascent energy. Everything felt infused with a deeper potential, a secret life. She reached out a hand, tracing the cool, smooth surface of Etheria Prime. Its soft, steady hum was more than just the sound of a device. It was a heartbeat, a lullaby, a silent promise. She had only pressed Chrono-Drift protocol in her dream state, a subconscious yearning that had blossomed into an extraordinary journey. But it was real. As real as the bed beneath her, as real as the air she breathed. Etheria Prime pulsed once, a gentle, almost imperceptible throb beneath her fingertips. It wasn't a random flicker, it was a response, a silent acknowledgement. Elara felt a smile spread across her face, a profound sense of awe mingling with a budding sense of responsibility. She closed her eyes again, not to sleep, but to recall. The violet desert, with its silent crystalline towers, now held new meaning, a place of quiet contemplation. And Lumina, the aqueous city of light, a vibrant testament to interconnectedness. What other echoes, what other worlds, what other times lay hidden in the vast ocean of time? What other lessons awaited her? She knew, with a certainty that hummed in her very soul, that her journey had only just begun. Etheria Prime was more than a device, it was a gateway, and she, Elara, was now its curious, courageous guardian. The universe was calling, and she was ready to answer. The starlight flower, with its purple heart, bloomed perpetually in her mind, a guiding light for the adventures yet to come. She just needed to figure out how to drift again. And what new wonders awaited her when she did. The hum of Etheria Prime continued, an invitation to the boundless unknown. She just needed to figure out how to drift again, and what new wonders awaited her when she did. The hum of Etheria Prime continued, an invitation to the boundless unknown. Elara spent the next few days in a quiet, focused contemplation. The first drift had been accidental, a merging of her deepest desires with the nascent power of Etheria Prime, triggered by the profound peace of sleep. Now, she needed to recreate that state, not through force or will, but through a gentle surrender. She tried meditating, sitting cross-legged before the shimmering device, focusing on the purple heart of the starlight flower blooming in her mind. She tried visualizing entire star systems, imagining herself shrinking, expanding, dissolving into the cosmic dust. But the more she tried, the more elusive the sensation became. The hum of Etheria Prime was a constant, almost musical presence in her small room. It wasn't just a sound. It was a vibration that seemed to resonate deep within her bones, a gentle thrumming that spoke of distant galaxies and untold mysteries. Sometimes she would place her hand on its smooth, cool surface, feeling the subtle energy radiating from it, like a sleeping star. The starlight flower, ever present in her inner eye, seemed to pulse with a faint internal light, occasionally intensifying when her thoughts strayed close to the threshold of drifting. One evening, as the twin moons of her home world cast long, silver shadows across her window, Elara found herself unusually tired. The day had been filled with the quiet chores of maintaining her small cottage, tending to her hydroponic garden, and the persistent, though gentle, yearning for another journey. She lay in her bed, watching the moons, their pearlescent glow filling the room with a dreamy quality. The hum of Etheria Prime seemed to soften, becoming a lullaby. She closed her eyes, not trying to drift, not trying to meditate, but simply allowing herself to sink into the comfortable embrace of sleep. As her consciousness began to waver, a familiar sensation unfolded. It wasn't the violent unraveling of before, but a slow, graceful unfurling, like a petal opening in slow motion. the starlight flower in her mind flared, its purple heart glowing with an inviting warmth. This time, she didn't resist. She didn't fight the pull. She simply let go. She imagined herself slipping through the purple heart, a gentle current carrying her forward, not through the void of space, but through a shimmering iridescent tunnel woven from starlight itself. The sensation was less like falling and more like floating, her essence dissolving and reforming, with an exquisite, almost artistic precision. She held on to the image of the starlight flower, allowing it to guide her, a compass pointing towards an unknown, yet utterly welcoming, destination. She didn't land with a jolt, but rather settled, like a feather drifting onto a soft bed of moss. The first thing Alara noticed was the light. It wasn't the harsh glare of a sun, nor the cold shimmer of distant stars. It was a soft, diffuse glow, filtering down through layers of colossal, iridescent flora. She was not on a solid ground, but within a vast living canopy. Above her, immense, layered fronds stretched upwards, reaching towards a distant, unseen sky, each leaf shimmering with its own internal light, casting a perpetual twilight that was both vibrant and serene. The air was warm, humid, and impossibly fragrant, carrying scents of sweet nectar, damp earth, and something else, a clean mineral tang that was utterly alien yet strangely invigorating. Sounds were muted, a symphony of gentle rustles, soft chimes, and distant, melodious calls that resonated through the living architecture around her. It was a world built not of stone or metal, but of interwoven life. Alara found herself standing on a pathway that was not paved, but woven from interconnected, living vines, glowing faintly with a warm amber light. These pathways snaked through the dense, vibrant foliage, occasionally arching into magnificent bioluminescent tunnels, or opening into vast hollow chambers where the light intensified, revealing breathtaking vistas of this organic world. Gravity here felt lighter, almost playful. She found she could leap higher, glide further, her movements imbued with an effortless grace she didn't possess on her home world. She took a tentative step, the living pathway beneath her foot feeling soft and slightly yielding. Everywhere she looked, the flora was unlike anything she had ever seen. There were lumiflora, plants that didn't just reflect light, but generated it, photosynthesizing through their own internal bioluminescence. They came in every conceivable shade of the spectrum, from tiny shimmering mosses that carpeted the vine paths, to towering, glowing structures that pulsed with rhythmic light, like organic lighthouses. Some resembled colossal, glowing mushrooms, their caps dripping with luminescent dew. Others were like immense, crystalline ferns, each frond a delicate lattice of pure light. As she ventured deeper, small winged insects with crystalline wings, no bigger than her thumbnail, flitted between the glowing fronds, leaving trails of sparkling dust. They moved with an almost ethereal grace, their movements synchronized as if dancing to the silent music of the canopy. But then, a shadow, impossibly vast, passed over her. Alara looked up, her breath catching in her throat. Through the upper layers of the canopy, drifting slowly and majestically, were colossal, gentle creatures. They were like celestial whales, but entirely composed of semi-transparent, glowing gases, their forms shifting and rippling like aurora borealis. They moved with a serene slowness, their vast bodies casting shimmering patterns of light and shadow across the lumiflora below. These were the sky whales, and they filled the air with deep, resonant hums, a sound that vibrated through Alara's chest, a primordial song of peace and ancient wisdom. Alara felt an overwhelming sense of wonder, a profound stillness settling over her heart. There was no fear, only an intense, almost spiritual awe. She watched as one of the sky whales gently grazed against a cluster of particularly luminous lumiflora, its gaseous form absorbing the glowing nectar, which then pulsed visibly within its translucent body. It was a symbiotic dance, a living ecosystem where every component played a vital, beautiful role. The sky whales, she instinctively knew, helped to spread the lumiflora's seeds, their gentle passage through the canopy, acting as a living dispersal system. Driven by an insatiable curiosity, Alara followed one of the glowing vine paths, drawn by a soft melodic sound that seemed to hum from deeper within the canopy. The path twisted and turned, ascending slightly, until it opened into a vast cavernous space, still entirely formed from living plant matter. Here, the glowing vines converged, forming a central basin from which issued forth a stream unlike any she had ever encountered. It was not water, but a flowing current of pure glowing motes of light, moving slowly and purposefully through a channel woven from crystalline lumiflora. It hummed with a soft resonant energy, the motes swirling and dancing, creating miniature eddies of iridescent brilliance. This was the memory stream. Cautiously, Elara extended her hand. The light motes swirled around her fingers, feeling cool and vibrant, vibrating gently against her skin. As she touched the stream, a wave of sensations washed over her, not overwhelming, but profound. Fleeting images flashed through her mind. The slow, majestic growth of a towering lumiflora. Centuries compressed into seconds. The gentle, rhythmic beating of a sky whale's inner light. The silent, patient unfolding of countless generations of this world's delicate ecosystem. These were not her memories, but echoes of the environment. A collective consciousness, a living archive flowing through the very heart of the canopy. She realized this was more than just a stream of light. It was the world's story, its history, its ongoing present, all woven into a tangible flowing current. It was a repository of life, knowledge, and experience. And then, she saw them. Ahead, interacting with the stream, were figures unlike any she had ever imagined. They were elegant, slender beings, appearing to be woven from light itself, an organic material that was almost translucent. Their forms shifted subtly with the play of light around them, their movements graceful and fluid, like dancers caught in an eternal slow-motion ballet. They had no discernible mouths or obvious sensory organs, but communicated through subtle shifts in their luminescence and resonant frequencies, which Elara could feel rather than hear. Their presence radiated a profound calm and an ancient wisdom. These were the memory keepers, or perhaps the luminescences of this world. The luminescences noticed Elara. There was no alarm, no fear, only an intense, unwavering curiosity that felt like a gentle touch on her consciousness. They turned their glowing forms towards her, their translucent limbs extending slender tendrils of light, not in threat but in invitation. Elara, despite the sheer alienness of their appearance, felt no fear either. The memory stream had already conveyed a sense of their world's gentle nature. She hesitated for only a moment, then extended her own hand, palm open, a gesture of peace and openness. As her fingers met the light tendrils of the luminescences, a gentle electric hum passed between them. It wasn't a painful shock, but a profound exchange of energy and information. It was not spoken language, but a direct transfer of feeling, intention, and fundamental concepts, bypassing the need for words. Through this connection, Elara understood. These beings were inextricably linked to their world, to the lumiflora, to the sky whales, and most importantly, to the memory stream. They were the living guardians and interpreters of their world's history, its ongoing narrative. They perceived Elara not as an intruder, but as an anomaly, a new memory entering their stream, one that radiated immense curiosity, wonder, and a deep empathetic kindness. Through the silent communion, they shared glimpses of their world's philosophy, a profound harmony, an intricate interconnectedness of all life, the beauty of gentle cycles of growth, decay, and rebirth, all orchestrated by light and resonance. They showed her how they tended the lumiflora, guided the sky whales, and ensured the purity and flow of the memory stream, adding their own experiences to its vast archives. In return, Elara shared glimpses of her own world. The twin moons, the quiet beauty of her cottage, the distant memory of her Earth, the overwhelming wonder of Etheria Prime, and the starlight flower that bloomed in her mind, her guiding light. She conveyed her yearning to understand, to connect, to learn the secrets of the boundless universe. The luminescences absorbed her story with a quiet reverence, their forms pulsing with understanding. They seemed to recognize the starlight flower, a subtle resonance passing through their shared connection. In response to her open heart and genuine desire for knowledge, the luminescences gently guided Elara deeper into the canopy, to a special part where the lumiflora pulsed with a unique rhythmic beat, a slow, profound thrumming that felt like the heartbeat of the world itself. Here, nestled amongst the glowing fronds, they showed her a cluster of lumiflora that seemed to hum with an even greater intensity. From this cluster, one of the lumen essences carefully detached a small contained sphere of glowing light. It wasn't a seed in the traditional sense, but a concentrated fragment of their world's energy, a stored memory of their existence, captured within a shimmering orb. They offered it to Ilara, conveying through their silent language that this memory seed would resonate with Etheria Prime and help her understand the intricate connections between worlds, a tangible link to the Lumina canopy. It was a gift, a symbol of their shared understanding. Ilara accepted the memory seed with a reverence that bordered on awe. It pulsed gently in her outstretched hand, warm and vibrant, a tiny star held within her grasp. She felt a profound sense of gratitude, not just for the gift, but for the connection, for the shared moment of understanding across species and galaxies. As the time for her to return approached, she felt a gentle, familiar pull, a soft tug at her consciousness. It was the call of Etheria Prime, a reminder that her anchor in her homeworld awaited her. A wave of sadness washed over her, a reluctance to leave this beautiful, serene world and its gentle inhabitants. But she also felt a profound sense of enrichment, her spirit expanded by the encounter. She expressed her gratitude to the luminescences, placing her hand once more against their luminous forms, a final touch of light and understanding. They conveyed, through their resonant frequencies, that she was always welcome, and that her memory, her unique story, was now woven into the eternal flow of their memory stream. She would forever be a part of their world, just as they would forever be a part of hers. With a final deep breath of the fragrant luminous air, Ilara allowed herself to be drawn back. The memory seed, now clutched gently in her mind, its light shimmering in her inner eye, accompanied her. The familiar sensation of unmaking and remaking enveloped her. But this time, it was a comforting embrace, a well-traveled path. She rematerialized softly in her room, beside the humming form of Etheria Prime. The transition was seamless, a gentle slipping from one reality to another. The memory seed, no longer an ethereal thought, now rested gently on the smooth, cool surface of Etheria Prime, pulsing with a soft internal glow, a beacon of its origin. Ilara felt different, expanded. Her understanding of the universe deepened in ways she couldn't yet fully articulate. The starlight flower in her mind now had an added shimmer, a subtle reflection of the vibrant, bioluminescent light of the whispering canopy. She knew, with a certainty that settled deep in her soul, that this was just one world, one encounter, one chapter in an infinite story. The universe was truly boundless, filled with wonders she had only just begun to glimpse. The memory seed pulsed gently on Etheria Prime, a promise of future insights, a permanent tangible link to the Lumina canopy and its gentle inhabitants. Etheria Prime continued its soft, inviting hum, a lullaby and an invitation, whispering of the next adventure, the next world waiting to be discovered. Ilara closed her eyes, the gentle light of the memory seed and the purple heart of the starlight flower illuminating her thoughts. The journey had truly just begun. Ilara closed her eyes, the gentle light of the memory seed and the purple heart of the starlight flower illuminating her thoughts. The journey had truly just begun. When she opened them again, Etheria Prime's soft ambient glow was the first thing she registered. The memory seed, now nestled in a specially designed alcove on her ship's console, pulsed with a steady rhythmic light, mirroring the slow beat of her own heart. It was no longer just an object. It was a living repository, a silent companion humming with the echoes of the Lumina canopy. Etheria Prime, her ship, was more than just a vessel. It was a sophisticated sentient entity, its core AI woven with empathy and an insatiable curiosity for the cosmos. "Good morning, Ilara." Etheria's smooth, calm voice resonated through the cabin, a voice that felt like warm starlight. "Sleep well? Your neural patterns indicate a period of profound integration." Ilara stretched, feeling the lingering warmth of the starlight flower's energy. Profound is an understatement, Etheria. It felt like I dreamt with the Lumina themselves. I saw the world through their light-sensitive eyes, felt the gentle currents of their etheric ocean. She reached out and lightly touched the memory seed. "What have we learned from this little marvel?" "Much, Ilara. The memory seed has begun to translate the Lumina's consciousness into a universal language matrix. We now have a comprehensive understanding of their bioluminescent communication, their symbiotic relationship with the etheric currents, and their profound reverence for the flow of life and energy across their entire world. They perceive existence not as individual moments, but as a continuous interconnected tapestry of light and vibration. Elara nodded, a sense of wonder washing over her. And the insights? The future discoveries it promised? Indeed. The memory seed acts as a beacon, drawing similar energetic signatures across the galaxy. It has detected a faint, yet distinct resonance pattern approximately 3 light-years from our current position. A world unlike Lumina Canopy, yet possessing a comparable level of unique, complex life energy. Shall we investigate? A thrill ran through Elara. Absolutely, Etheria. Set a course. What can you tell me about this new signal? It's intriguing, Elara. The resonance isn't a single continuous frequency like the Lumina. It's a series of intricate interwoven pulses, almost like a highly complex song, or perhaps a conversation. It emanates from a region of space designated the Whispering Nebula, a vast cloud of interstellar dust and gas known for its unusual acoustic properties. The journey to the Whispering Nebula was a spectacle in itself. Etheria Prime, with its sleek star-gemmed hull, glided through the void, leaving a shimmering trail of condensed starlight. As they approached the nebula, the deep black of space began to soften, giving way to swirling currents of iridescent gases, blues, greens, and purples blending into a cosmic watercolor. The stars, usually sharp pinpricks, became diffused halos, their light filtered and refracted by the nebular clouds. And then, the whispers began. Not audible sound in the traditional sense, but a vibrational hum that permeated the ship, a subtle thrumming against Elara's skin. It was the song Etheria had detected, now amplified by their proximity. It felt ancient, vast, and profoundly alive. The resonance is strengthening, Etheria announced, her voice barely audible above the rising hum. It appears the source is at the very heart of the nebula, a world previously obscured by the dense gas. As Etheria Prime eased through the final layers of nebular dust, a breathtaking sight unfolded before Elara. The world beneath them was not a sphere of land and water, but a colossal, intricate structure of living crystal and interwoven light. Thousands of towering spires, some kilometers high, pierced the nebular veil, glowing with an internal, pulsating light that mirrored the rhythm of the whispers. They weren't smooth or uniform. Each spire was a complex lattice, appearing to be woven from countless threads of shimmering, multi-hued crystal, intricately connected by bridges of pure, solidified light. "Welcome to Exilos, Elara." Etheria's voice was filled with an almost reverent awe. The whispering spires. Elara felt her breath catch in her throat. The scale was immense, the beauty otherworldly. Are those structures? Or are they alive? Both, Elara. My scans indicate these spires are a form of geologically grown, biocrystalline life. They appear to be interconnected, forming a single, vast, distributed consciousness across the entire planet. The whispers are their collective song, their means of communication, and it seems, their form of thought. Etheria Prime gently descended, navigating through the labyrinthine canyons formed by the towering spires. The air, though thin, shimmered with tiny motes of crystalline dust, catching the internal light of the spires and scattering it into dazzling rainbows. Elara donned her environmental suit, its transparent helmet allowing an unobstructed view of the wondrous landscape, but "I'm detecting a stable landing platform," Etheria reported. "It appears to be a natural formation, adapted by the spire consciousness. It's inviting us, Elara." Stepping out onto Silas felt like stepping into a living cathedral. The ground beneath her boots was cool, smooth crystal, humming with the same gentle vibrations that permeated the air. The whispers were louder here, a symphony of soft chimes, deep resonating tones, and high, delicate trills. It wasn't overwhelming, but rather enveloping, like being bathed in sound. Elara moved cautiously, her steps echoing softly in the vastness. The spires around her seemed to lean in, their crystalline surfaces reflecting her image 1,000 times over. She noticed intricate patterns etched into the crystal, flowing lines that seemed to tell stories without words. "The patterns," Elara murmured, touching the particularly elaborate section. They're not random. They're like glyphs, or a language. Precisely, Elara. The spire consciousness communicates through light, vibration, and these crystalline etchings. Each pattern tells a story, records an event, or expresses a concept. They are the planet's memory, etched into its very being. As Elara delved deeper into the spire forest, she realized the sheer complexity of Xylos. Smaller, more delicate crystalline growths pulsed with individual lights, like bioluminescent flora. Tiny moth-like creatures with crystalline wings flitted between the spires, their movements adding delicate, higher-pitched notes to the planetary song. It was a world of intricate, interconnected beauty, where every element played a part in the grand symphony. She found herself drawn to a particularly large spire, one that pulsed with a deeper, more resonant light. As she approached, the whispers around her seemed to coalesce, becoming clearer, more focused. She felt a gentle tug, a mental invitation, almost like a soft hand reaching out to her thoughts. Aetheria, Elara whispered. I think it wants to communicate with me directly. Proceed with caution, Elara, Aetheria advised, though her voice carried no alarm, only a slight tremor of anticipation. The memory seed is reacting strongly. It seems to recognize a kindred spirit. Elara took a deep breath, and extended her hand, pressing her palm against the cool, smooth surface of the grand spire. The moment her skin touched the crystal, a surge of energy, not harsh but incredibly gentle, flowed through her. The whispers intensified, no longer just sound, but a cascade of images, emotions, and pure data flowing directly into her mind. She saw the birth of Xylos, a slow geological unfolding over eons, the crystal spires growing like ancient trees. She witnessed the planet's consciousness awakening, a collective sentience emerging from the very rock and light. She felt the joy of growth, the sorrow of a lost spire, the shared wisdom of countless cycles of existence. It wasn't a narrative in words, but a tapestry of pure experience. The memory seed, still nestled in its alcove on Aetheria Prime, began to glow with an intense multi-hued light, mimicking the influx of data Elara was receiving. It was absorbing, translating, and integrating the vast ancient wisdom of Xylos. Elara understood then. The Lumina canopy communicated through shared light and gentle touch, their lives intertwined with the etheric ocean. Xylos, the whispering spires, communicated through shared vibration, etched memory, and collective consciousness. Both were profoundly interconnected living worlds, but their expressions of life were vastly different. Yet, the core essence was the same, a deep, abiding connection to life itself. As the connection deepened, Elara felt a profound sense of peace settle over her. She wasn't just observing. She was participating. She felt the rhythm of the Xylos, the slow, steady beat of its planetary heart. She understood the purpose of the whispers. They were the planet's song of existence, its continuous meditation, its way of sharing wisdom across its vast crystalline network. She learned that the spire consciousness of Xylos had no concept of individual selves as humans understood it. They were a unified we, a vast interconnected mind that experienced time as an eternal present, where all past and future events were echoes within the continuous song. Their purpose was to grow, to learn, and to sing the universe into being through their crystalline vibrations. Elara felt a gentle sadness, a fleeting pang of loneliness for her own singular existence, yet it was quickly overshadowed by the profound sense of belonging she felt in this moment. She was a single note in Xylos's grand symphony, and it was enough. More than enough. It was beautiful. She shared her own memories through the connection. Fleeting images of Earth, the warmth of human laughter, the vastness of space, the gentle glow of the Lumina. The spire consciousness accepted them without judgment, weaving them into its own intricate patterns, adding new harmonies to its endless song. After what felt like an eternity, but was likely only a few hours, the connection began to gently recede. Elara slowly withdrew her hand, feeling the soft hum of Xylos linger in her fingertips. She looked at the spire, no longer just a towering crystal, but a vast, loving entity that had welcomed her into its heart. You have integrated a phenomenal amount of data. Elara. Aetheria's voice was soft, awed. The memory seed is now radiating a new, incredibly complex signature. It holds the complete vibrational language of Silos, the collective history of the spires, and a unique perspective on the nature of interconnected consciousness. Elara smiled, tears brimming in her eyes. It's more than data, Etheria. It's wisdom. It's understanding. It's a feeling of belonging to something so much larger than myself, yet still being a vital part of it. She looked down at her hands, seeing the faint, shimmering imprints of the spire's light. I feel expanded. Returning to Etheria Prime, Elara felt transformed. The memory seed, now glowing with a rich, vibrant inner light that pulsed with the combined frequencies of Lumina Canopy and Xylos, seemed to hum with a deeper purpose. It was no longer just a seed, it was a budding consciousness in its own right, a living library of universal experiences. Elara settled into her pilot's chair, the soft hum of Etheria Prime, a comforting lullaby. Plot a course for anywhere, Etheria. Let the memory seed guide us. Let it lead us to the next whisper, the next song. Understood, Elara. Etheria replied, her voice filled with quiet satisfaction. The memory seed is now acting as a true compass. It is guiding us towards a region of space-time exhibiting anomalies in quantum entanglement, a phenomenon suggesting a highly advanced, perhaps even transcendent, form of intelligence. Elara closed her eyes, the gentle light of the memory seed now a constellation of warmth within her mind. It wasn't just an external object, it had woven itself into the fabric of her own consciousness, a beacon of shared knowledge and empathy. The Lumina's gentle flow, the spire's ancient song, they were now part of her. She was Elara, the explorer of stars, the keeper of memories. Her journey had only just begun, but with each new world, each new connection, she was not just discovering the universe, she was discovering herself within it. The vastness of space no longer felt daunting, but inviting, a boundless ocean of wonder waiting to be explored. A symphony of existence waiting for her to add her own unique note. The gentle hum of Etheria Prime, the soft glow of the memory seed, and the vibrant echoes of worlds past and future, wrapped around her like a warm blanket. She drifted into a peaceful sleep, dreaming of light, of whispers, and of the endless beautiful journey that awaited her. The stars were calling, and Elara, with her heart full of memories, was ready to answer.